The crystal towers of Zephyros City gleamed like jewels under the twin suns of Keplor for 2b. Commander Veltar stood on the highest observation deck, his scales catching the morning light as he watched cargo ships move between the floating platforms. For 300 years, his people had called this world home. The Zephyrians had built a peaceful life among the crystal formations that grew naturally from the planet's surface. Everything changed when the sensors started screaming, "Commander." Dr. Kirsten burst through the doors of the command center, her emergency tablet flashing red warnings. "We have massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown vessels, at least 50 of them." Veltar's blood went cold. The Zephyrians had no enemies. They traded peacefully with nearby systems and kept to themselves. Their small defense fleet was meant more for asteroid clearing than actual combat. "Show me," he ordered. The main display activated, revealing something that made every Zephyrian in the room step back in horror. The ships that appeared on screen were not built. They were grown. Massive biomechanical constructs with pulsing veins running along their dark holes. Katona's armor plates shifted and moved like living skin. These were not ships in any normal sense. They were creatures. "By the crystal depths," whispered one of the younger officers. "What are those things?" Veltar had heard stories from deep space traders, whispered tales of a species that consumed entire worlds.
The Devourers.
He had always hoped they were just stories meant to frighten children. "All defense platforms activate immediately," Veltar commanded. "Send word to every settlement. Begin emergency evacuation procedures." Commander Kirsten's voice shook. "The bioships are launching smaller craft. Thousands of them." The screen showed swarms of smaller organic vessels streaming from the larger ships like insects from a hive. They moved with purpose, heading straight for the planet's surface. "What do they want?" asked Communications Officer Thasara Veltar. Watched as the first wave of biocraft reached the outer settlements. Where they landed, everything began to change. Plants withered and died. Buildings crumbled as their foundations were consumed. Even the crystal formations started to turn black and crack. "Everything," he said quietly. "They want to consume everything." The Zephyrian defense fleet moved to intercept, but their small patrol ships were no match for the bio-vessels. The enemy craft seemed to learn from each encounter, adapting their tactics within minutes. When the Zephyrians used energy weapons, the bioships grew thicker armor. When they tried ramming attacks, the creatures developed spines and barbs. "Our weapons are having minimal effect," reported Fleet Captain Zeshtar over the communication system. His voice was strained. "These things are learning from our attacks. They're adapting faster than we can change tactics." Through the command center windows, Veltar could see fires beginning to spread across the distant valleys. The evacuation was not going fast enough. There were millions of Zephyrians on the planet and only a few dozen transport ships. "Kirsten," he turned to the scientist. "Can we send a message to the Galactic Council? Request immediate assistance?" "I can try the quantum communication array," she replied, already moving toward her station. "But Commander, the nearest council?" "Forces are weeks away. We need help now." "Send the message anyway. Include our coordinates and tell them what we're facing." Dr. Kirsten worked quickly at her console, but her face grew troubled. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange. The quantum channels are filled with similar distress calls. The Devourers aren't just attacking us. They're hitting multiple systems at the same time." Veltar felt his hopes sink further. The Devourers were attacking everywhere. The Galactic Council would prioritize the more important worlds. Keplor 442b was just a small colony world with no strategic value. "Keep trying," he ordered. "Send the message to everyone. The Council, the trade networks, even the independent systems. Someone has to help us." Hours passed. The evacuation continued as fast as possible, but it was not fast enough. The Devourers had landed in force across 3 continents. Where they went, the land itself seemed to die. The crystal forests that had taken centuries to grow were consumed. In hours, reports came in from the surface. The biocreatures were not just destroying, they were harvesting. Everything they consumed seemed to make them stronger and smarter. They learned the layout of cities by eating the buildings. They discovered Zephyrian weaknesses by consuming the defenders. "Any response to our messages?" Veltar asked Kyrison. Shook her head sadly. The Kraxan Empire received our call. Their response was that intervention would not be strategically beneficial to their interests. The ethereal collective acknowledged the message, but said they cannot spare resources for unknown species in remote sectors. What about the Council of Ancients? They're supposed to protect younger civilizations. They sent their regrets. They say the Devourers are a force of nature that must be endured, not fought. They suggest we attempt to negotiate. Veltar wanted to roar in frustration, negotiate with creatures that consumed everything in their path. The ancients clearly had never seen what the Devourers actually did to the worlds they visited. More messages came back throughout the day. Each one was the same, expressions of sympathy, but no actual help. The great powers of the galaxy had decided that one small colony world was not worth the risk of fighting the Devourers. By evening, half the planet was covered in the black spreading infection that followed in the Devourers' wake. The beautiful crystal cities were cracking and falling. Millions of Zephyrians had been evacuated to orbital stations and transport ships, but millions more remained trapped on the surface. Commander, came a weak transmission from the surface. This is Settlement Coordinator Velkas, from the southern continent. We're surrounded. The bio-creatures have cut off all escape routes. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach the city. Senta Veltar closed his eyes. Veltas was his younger brother. Hold your position, he replied, though he knew it was hopeless. We're trying to get help. I know you are, brother. Just, if no one comes, ... tell the others we fought bravely. The communication cut to static. Dr. Kyrison looked up from her station with tears in her eyes. Commander, I've sent our plea. To every known civilization in this part of the galaxy, 87 different species have received our message. So far, we have received 73 responses, and all negative. No one is coming to help us. Veltar stared at the tactical display showing the spread of the Devourer infection across his world. In less than a day, centuries of peaceful civilization were being erased. His people were dying, and the galaxy's great powers were too busy or too afraid to care. Keep sending the message, he said quietly. Broadcast it on all frequencies. Someone somewhere might still have the courage to answer. What should the message say? Kyrison asked. Veltar thought about his brother trapped on the surface. He thought about the millions of Zephyrians who would die because they had the bad luck to be in the path of an unstoppable force. He thought about how the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had turned their backs on his people's desperate need. Keep it simple, he said. We are dying. Our world burns. Please, anyone who receives this, help us. Coordinates attached. Time is running out. As night fell over the dying world, the message continued to broadcast into the vast emptiness of space. Most of the galaxy had already heard it and chosen to look away. But somewhere in that darkness, someone might still be listening. Someone might still care enough to try. The Zephyrians could only hope that somewhere among the stars there existed a people who understood that doing what was right mattered more than doing what was safe. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the communication displays in the Terran Defense Station orbiting Mars. The night shift was usually quiet, filled with routine status reports from Earth's small fleet of exploration vessels. Humanity had only developed faster than light travel 15 years ago, making them newcomers to a galaxy that had been connected for thousands of years. Most alien species barely acknowledged Earth's existence. To them, humans were primitive upstarts who had just learned to leave their own solar system. The few trade agreements they had managed to secure were for basic raw materials, nothing more. That's why Jake almost ignored the transmission when it first appeared on his screen. Emergency broadcasts from unknown alien species were common enough. Usually they were old recordings, bounced around space for years, or false signals from automated systems. But something about this one made him pause. The voice was desperate. Even through the universal translator, Jake could hear the fear and hopelessness. The message was simple and direct. No political language or formal diplomatic requests, just a plea for help from someone watching their world die. Jake enhanced the signal and played it again. The coordinates placed the source in a star system, over 200 light-years away, far beyond Earth's normal sphere of influence. He checked the database and found no record of the species calling themselves Zephyrians. Computer analyzed signal strength and transmission pattern, he said. The response made him sit up straighter. This was not an old recording. It was fresh, transmitted within the last few hours using quantum communication technology. Someone was dying right now, and they were asking anyone who would listen to help them. Jake made a decision that would change everything. He forwarded the message directly to Admiral Lisa Carter's personal communication line, marking it as urgent. 20 minutes later, Admiral Carter arrived in the communication center, still wearing her sleep clothes. She was a small woman with graying hair, but her eyes were sharp and alert despite being woken in the middle of the night. "Play it again," she ordered after Jake explained what he had found. They listened to the Zephyrian plea in silence. When it finished, Admiral Carter was quiet for a long moment. "Computer, show me all recorded responses to this transmission," she said. The display filled with message logs. Dozens of alien civilizations had received the same call for help. Responses were all similar. Polite refusals, expressions of regret, excuses about distance, resources, and strategic priorities. "They're all saying no," Jake said quietly. Admiral Carter nodded grimly. "Call an emergency meeting of the Command Council. Get everyone up. We need to discuss this immediately." An hour later, the senior officers of the Terran Space Command sat around the conference table in the station's main meeting room. General Pete Rodriguez looked annoyed at being woken up. Dr. Helen Barnes from the Science Division was still drinking coffee to stay alert. Captain Ryan Murphy, commander of Earth's newest warship, listened intently as Jake played the Zephyrian message. "So let me understand this correctly," General Rodriguez said when the message finished. "An unknown alien species is under attack by something called the Devourers. They've asked the entire galaxy for help and everyone has said no. Now you want us to consider getting involved?" "That's correct," Admiral Carter replied. "Admiral, with respect, we barely have 6 combat-capable ships in our entire fleet. We've been a spacefaring civilization for less than 2 decades. What could we possibly do against something that has the rest of the galaxy too scared to act?" Barnes looked up from her tablet. "I've been researching what little information we have about the Devourers. The reports are frightening. They appear to be biomechanical entities that consume everything in their path. Planets, ships, even other life forms. They grow stronger with everything they absorb. Which proves my point," Rodriguez continued. "This is way beyond our capabilities. We should stay out of it." Captain Murphy had been quiet during the discussion, but now he spoke up. "General, what if it was Earth under attack? What if we sent out a call for help and everyone ignored us? That's different. Earth is our home. Is it different? Or are we just lucky that we're not the ones dying right now?" Admiral Carter stood and walked to the large window overlooking Mars. The red planet looked peaceful from this distance. But she knew that in a few hundred years, it would be humanity's second home. What if something like the Devourers came for them then? "I've made my decision," she said, turning back to face the group. "We're going to help them." The room erupted in protests. General Rodriguez slammed his hand on the table. "Admiral, this is suicide. We don't know anything about this enemy. I don't even know if these Zephyrians are telling the truth. You're right, we don't know much, but we know enough." Admiral Carter returned to her seat. "Someone is dying out. There, they asked for help. Everyone else in the galaxy has turned their backs on them. I won't let humanity be part of that." But Admiral Dr. Barnes interjected. "The practical concerns are real. Our ships aren't designed for this kind of combat. We have no experience fighting biomechanical entities. The chances of success are minimal." Dr. Barnes's success isn't always measured by winning. Sometimes it's measured by whether you tried to do the right thing when everyone else was too afraid or too selfish to care. Captain Murphy nodded slowly. "I agree with the Admiral. My ship and crew are ready for deployment." "Ryan, you can't be serious," Rodriguez said. "The TSS Defiance is our most advanced vessel. If we lose it, Earth's defenses will be crippled." "General, What good are defenses if we're not willing to defend what's right? If we let innocent people die because it's safer for us, what makes us any different from all those other species who ignored the call? Admiral Carter looked around the table. I'm not ordering anyone to go. This will be a volunteer mission. But I believe humanity needs to make a statement here. We may be new to the galaxy, but we're going to show everyone what we stand for. Morrison found himself speaking up. Admiral, I'd like to volunteer for the mission, as communications officer. Denied. I need you here to coordinate with any other ships that might change their minds and decide to help. But Jake had an idea. Admiral, what if we don't just go help them? What if we broadcast our intentions across the galaxy? Let everyone know that Earth is responding to the call. Dr. Barnes looked interested. That could be effective. Other species might be shamed into action if they see a primitive civilization like ours willing to take risks they won't. It could also paint a target on Earth, Rodriguez warned. These Devourers are as dangerous as reports suggest. They might come for us next. Admiral Carter considered this. Maybe, but I'd rather face that risk knowing we tried to do the right thing than live safely while innocent people died because we were too afraid to help. The debate continued for another hour, but Admiral Carter's mind was made up. Captain Murphy would take the TSS Defiance and 5 other ships to Keplor 4 for to be. It was everything humanity could spare without leaving Earth completely defenseless. As the meeting broke up, Jake Morrison stayed behind with the Admiral. Are we really doing this? Going up against something that has the entire galaxy terrified? Admiral Carter smiled sadly. Jake, do you know what I think the difference is between humanity and the rest of the galaxy? They've been out there so long that they've learned to calculate everything. Risk versus reward. Strategic value. Political considerations. They've forgotten something important. What's that, ma'am? Sometimes doing the right thing is reason enough, even if it's dangerous. Even if you might fail. Someone is dying out. There, and they asked for help. That should be enough for anyone with a conscience. 2 hours later, Jake watched from the observation deck as the TSS Defiance and 5 escort ships powered up their engines. Captain Murphy's voice came over the communication system. Terran Defense Station, this is Captain Murphy. We are departing. For Keplor 4 to be to render assistance to the Zephyrian people. Tell Earth that we go not because we expect to win, but because it's the right thing to do. As the ships jumped to hyperspace, Jake began composing a message to broadcast across the galaxy. It was simple and direct, just like the Zephyrian plea had been. This is Earth responding to the Zephyrian distress call. We may be small, we may be new to the galaxy, but we will not ignore the cry of innocent people in danger. To any others with the courage to do what's right, the coordinates are attached. It's time to show the galaxy that some things matter more than fear. He sent the message and waited. Maybe no one would listen. Maybe humanity's small fleet would be destroyed before they could make any difference. But at least they would know. They tried. At least they could face themselves in the mirror, knowing they heard someone's desperate call for help, and chose to answer. In the darkness between stars, 6 human ships raced toward a dying world, carrying with them something the galaxy had forgotten how to value: hope. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Keplor 442 system, and Captain Ryan Murphy felt his blood turn cold. The tactical display showed a scene from hell itself. Dozens of massive bioships swarmed around the dying planet, like hungry vultures. Each one was easily 3 times the size of his largest vessel. No. Mother of God, whispered Tactical Officer Lisa Park from her station. Captain, I'm reading 58 hostile contacts. They're not showing up as normal ship signatures. These things have organic hulls and biological power systems. Murphy watched through the main view screen as the Devourer bioships moved around. The planet with disturbing purpose. They were not random in their destruction. They moved in patterns, coordinating their attacks like parts of a single living organism. Communications, Murphy called to Tony Garcia at the CUM station. Try to reach the Zephyrian fleet. Let them know help has arrived. Working on it, Captain, Garcia replied, his fingers flying over his controls. I'm getting a lot of interference. From the bioships, they seem to be jamming most frequencies. Engineer Bobby Collins looked up from his station with a concerned expression. Captain, I'm picking up some very strange readings from those organic vessels. Their hulls are actually absorbing energy from weapons fire. Every time they get hit, they seem to get stronger. Are you saying they're learning from combat? Murphy asked, More than that, sir. They're adapting. Look at this. Collins transferred his data to the main screen. 3 hours ago, the Zephyrion defense fleet hit that large bioship with plasma cannons. Now the creature has grown specialized scales that deflect plasma energy. Lisa Park studied the tactical readings with growing alarm. Captain, if these things can adapt to any weapon we use against them, how are we supposed to fight them? Murphy was about to answer when Garcia suddenly straightened at his station. Captain, I'm getting a transmission from the planet's surface. It's weak, but I can clean it up, put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was strained and filled with desperation. The universal translator worked quickly to convert the alien words to English. This is Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Colonial Defense Force. To whoever is receiving this message, our situation is critical. The Devourer bioships have consumed 60% of our planet's surface. We have lost most of our orbital defenses. If someone out there can hear this, we need immediate assistance. Murphy keyed his communicator. Commander Veltar, this is Captain Ryan Murphy of the Terran Space Command. We are 6 ships from Earth, and we're here to help you. The silence that followed lasted so long that Murphy thought the connection had been lost. Finally, Veltar's voice returned, filled with disbelief. Did you say Earth? I do not recognize that designation. What species are you? We're human. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. Human, Veltar's voice was confused. But our records show no response from any species called human. We sent our plea to 87 different civilizations. All of them refused to help us. Well, Commander, now you have help. What's your tactical situation? Captain Murphy. Veltar's voice grew stronger with hope. The bioships have some kind of collective intelligence. They coordinate their attacks and adapt to our weapons within minutes of first contact. Our remaining ships are trapped in the upper atmosphere, trying to protect the evacuation transports. Murphy looked at his tactical display. The human fleet was vastly outnumbered, but they had one advantage the bioships might not expect. Humans were unpredictable. All ships, Murphy announced on the fleet-wide channel. Oh, this is Defiance. We're going in hot. Remember these things. Adapt to patterns, so don't give them any. Keep your attack methods random and unpredictable. Collins, what's the status on our special weapon? Bobby Collins grinned from his engineering station. The electromagnetic pulse cannon is ready, Captain. These bioships use biological nerve systems. This should really ruin their day. Perfect. Park. I want you to target the largest concentration of enemy vessels. Garcia, send a message to the Zephyrian ships. Tell them to stay clear of grid section 7. We're about to make some noise. The TSS Defiance led the charge toward the swarming bioships, its 5 escort vessels spread out. In an irregular formation, Murphy had ordered them to avoid any recognizable attack pattern, instead of the straight-line approaches that military doctrine taught. They came in from random angles and constantly changing speeds. The bioships reacted immediately to the approaching human fleet. Dozens of the smaller organic craft broke away from their attack on the planet and swarmed toward the newcomers. Murphy watched as the creatures moved with fluid grace, their living hulls pulsing with dark energy. Incoming hostiles, Park announced. They're firing some kind of biological projectiles. Not energy weapons, Captain. These are living ammunition. The first volley of organic missiles struck the human fleet, and Murphy felt the Defiance shudder under the impact. But the bioprojectiles seemed confused by the ship's metal hull. They had been designed to consume living tissue and organic materials, not process steel and titanium. They're not adapted for our hull composition, Collins reported with excitement. Their weapons are designed to fight other bioships, not manufactured vessels like ours. Then let's give them something to really think about, Murphy ordered. All ships, fire at will. Use every weapon type we have. Keep them guessing. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, railguns, missile pods, and laser arrays all fired at once, but not in any coordinated pattern. Each ship captain chose their own targets and methods, creating a chaotic light show that the bioships had never encountered before. The effect was immediate. The Devourer creatures tried to adapt to the incoming fire, but they could not keep up with the constantly changing attack methods. Their hulls began shifting and growing new defensive features, but before they could complete one adaptation, a completely different weapon type would strike them. "Now, Collins," Murphy shouted. The electromagnetic pulse cannon fired, sending a massive wave of electrical energy through the bioship formation. The effect was devastating. The creatures' nervous systems overloaded, causing them to convulse and lose control. Several of the smaller bioships actually fell out of formation and began drifting helplessly. Direct hit on the nerve clusters, Collins reported with glee. Their biological systems can't handle that much electrical interference. The victory was short-lived. The larger bioships began adapting even to the electromagnetic attack. Murphy watched in horror as they grew specialized organs that seemed to absorb and redirect electrical energy. "They're learning too fast," Park said grimly. "Captain, we've bought ourselves maybe 10 minutes before they figure out how to counter everything we just threw at them." Murphy opened a channel to Commander Veltar. "Commander, we've created an opening. Get your evacuation transports clear of the planet now. Can't hold these things off for long." Captain Murphy Veltar's voice was filled with gratitude and amazement. "In 300 years of Zephyrian history, no one has ever come to help us in our darkest hour. Your people barely know us, yet you risk everything to save lives you've never met. That's what people do for each other, Commander. At least that's what they should do." Dr. Amy Watson, the fleet's medical officer, had been monitoring communications from the planet's surface. "Captain, I'm picking up bio-readings from the Zephyrian survivors. Their physiology is compatible with several of our medical treatments. If we can get close enough, we might be able to help with their wounded." "Negative, Doctor. It's too dangerous to get close to the planet while those bioships are still active." But even as Murphy spoke, he could see that the Devourers were already adapting to human tactics. The larger bioships began growing thicker armor plating and developing new weapon systems specifically designed to counter human technology. Garcia suddenly looked up from his station with surprise. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from outside the system. Someone else is coming. Reinforcements from Earth." "No, sir." "The signature is Kraxon. It's a squadron of their warships, and they're broadcasting a message on open channels." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and growling, clearly from one of the galaxy's warrior races. "This is War Chief Gorthok of the Kraxon Rebel Fleet. We have monitored the human transmission regarding assistance to the Zephyrian people. The Kraxon High Command may be cowards, but we are not. We come to fight alongside those with honor." Murphy felt a surge of hope. "Garcia, respond to the Kraxon fleet. Tell them we welcome their assistance." "Park, what's our status?" "We've lost." "To escort vessels, Captain. The bioships are adapting faster than we can change tactics. We need those Kraxon reinforcements, and we need them now." The battle raged around the dying planet as humanity's small fleet fought desperately to buy time for the Zephyrian evacuation. They were outnumbered and facing an enemy that grew stronger with each passing moment. But they had accomplished something that the galaxy's greatest civilizations had not. They had answered the call. Murphy watched as the Kraxon warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons blazing as they charged into the bioship formation. War Chief Gorthok's squadron struck the bioship formation like a hammer blow. The Kraxon warships were built for one purpose: destruction. Their massive cannons fired rounds that could punch through asteroid belts, and their warriors screamed battle cries that echoed across the communication channels. "Human Captain Murphy." Gorthok's voice boomed through the speakers. "Your message has traveled far across the galaxy. Young warriors from many worlds heard your call to courage. We may be few, but we fight with honor." Captain Murphy felt a surge of hope as he watched the Kraxon ships tear into the bio-vessel formation. The warrior race's weapons were different from anything the Devourers had faced so far. Instead of energy weapons, they used solid projectiles fired at incredible speeds. The bioships tried to adapt, but physical matter was harder to defend against than energy beams. Garcia, patch me through to War Chief Gorthok, Murphy ordered. Chief, we need to coordinate our attacks. These creatures learn too fast if we give them time, agreed Human, and my ships will take the larger biovessels. Your fleet has speed advantage. Use it to protect the evacuation ships. The battle plan worked for almost an hour. The combined Human and Kraxan fleets managed to keep the bioships away from the fleeing Zephyrian transports. Commander Veltar remaining defense ships joined the fight, their crews inspired by the sight of two alien species willing to die for their world. But the Devourers were learning. Murphy watched in growing alarm as the bioships began developing new tactics. Instead of fighting individually, they started connecting to each other with organic cables. The smaller vessels began merging with the larger ones, creating massive superorganisms that could withstand even Kraxan firepower. Captain, Lisa Park called out from her station. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from deep space. More bioships are coming out of hyperspace. The tactical display filled with red contacts. Dozens of new Devourer vessels appeared at the edge of the system, each one larger than anything they had fought so far. These were not scouts or raiders. This was the main fleet. All ships fall back to defensive positions around the planet, Murphy ordered. We can't fight that many. But before the retreat could begin, Garcia's voice cut through the battle noise. Captain, I'm receiving multiple transmissions from across. The Galaxy ships are jumping into the system. More Devourers? No, sir, I can't believe this. We've got ethereal collective vessels, independent traders, even some ships I don't recognize. They're all responding to our broadcast. Murphy watched in amazement as ships from dozens of different species dropped out of hyperspace around the battle zone. The sleek silver vessels of the ethereal collective moved with impossible grace. A group of converted cargo haulers had been armed with whatever weapons their crews could find. Even some of the mysterious deep space nomad ships had come to fight. One voice stood out among the communications chatter. It was young and filled with determination. This is Science Officer Zarathis of the ethereal research vessel, Harmony. My government may have refused to help, but we are not our government. We bring experimental weapons that may be effective against biomechanical targets. Another transmission followed immediately. This is Captain Nova of the Independent Trader Alliance. We may not be soldiers, but we're not cowards either. Someone needs to stand up to these monsters, War Chief. Gorthek's laughter boomed across the channels. Human Murphy. Your courage has shamed the galaxy into action. Now we have a real fight. But even with the reinforcements, the situation grew worse by the minute. The new Devourer bioships were massive, beyond anything they had seen. Some were over 10 miles long, their hulls covered in weapon pods that fired streams of living ammunition. Worse, these larger vessels began releasing clouds of smaller organisms that swarmed through space like angry insects. Dr. Amy? Watson's voice came over the communication system from one of the medical ships. Captain, I'm analyzing samples of the biomatter from destroyed Devourer vessels. These things aren't just consuming matter for energy. They're learning from everything they eat. Each ship they destroy makes them smarter. What are you saying? Doctor, they've been eating civilizations for who knows how long. Every species they've consumed has made them more dangerous. They know the tactics and technologies of hundreds of different races. The implications hit Murphy like a physical blow. The Devourers were not just predators. They were collectors. Every world they destroyed, every ship they consumed, added to their knowledge and abilities. No wonder the galaxy's great powers were afraid to fight them. Bobby Collins suddenly looked up from his engineering station with excitement. Captain, I think I've found something. The bioships are all connected through some kind of biological network. Look at this energy pattern. He transferred his readings to the main screen. A complex web of energy connections linked every Devourer vessel in the system, but at the center of the web was the largest bioship, a massive creature that pulsed with dark energy. It's a hive mind, Collins continued. That big ship is controlling all the others. If we could destroy it, the entire fleet might be paralyzed. Lisa? Park studied the tactical display. Bobby's right, Captain. Every attack pattern originates from that central vessel, but it's surrounded by at least 20 other bioships. Getting close enough to attack it would be suicide. Murphy stared at the massive hive ship on his screen. It was easily 50 times the size of his vessel, protected by layers of smaller bioships and weapon platforms. But if Collins was right, it was the key to saving the Zephyrians and everyone else in the system. Garcia. Open a channel to all allied ships, Murphy said quietly. Channel open, Captain. Murphy took a deep breath. He knew what he was about to propose would sound insane. All ships, this is Captain Murphy. We've identified the enemy command vessel. It's the large bioship at the center of their formation. If we can destroy it, we might be able to stop the entire fleet. War Chief Gorthak was the first to respond. Human Captain, that vessel is too well defended. Even my warriors could not reach it. You're right, Chief. A direct assault would fail. But what if we didn't try to fight our way through? What if we went straight at them? Science Officer Zarathi's voice cut in. Captain Murphy, are you suggesting a suicide attack? That would require someone to fly directly into the hive ship's core? I'm not asking anyone else to do it. This is my decision. I'll load my ship with nuclear warheads and ram it straight into that thing's brain. Explosion should be enough to disrupt their hive network. The communication channels erupted with protests. Commander Veltar's voice rose above the others. Captain Murphy, you cannot sacrifice yourself for our world. You have already given us more than we had any right to expect. Commander, with respect, this isn't just about your world anymore. These things have been consuming civilizations for centuries. They won't stop with the Zephyrians. They'll keep spreading until they've eaten everything in the galaxy. The human is right, Gorthok said grimly. But this plan requires someone to get past all those defensive bioships. Even the fastest ship would be destroyed before reaching the target. Not if we all attack at once, Murphy replied. Every ship in this system hits their formation from a different angle, create as much chaos as possible while they're trying. To respond to multiple threats, I slip through and deliver the warheads. Zarathi's voice was thoughtful. My research vessel has some experimental stealth technology. We could mask your approach until the last moment. My traders know these space lanes better than anyone, added Captain Nova. We can create diversions that will draw their attention. Away from your attack run, Commander Veltar's voice was heavy with emotion. Captain Murphy, if you do this thing, the Zephyrian people will never forget your sacrifice. We will tell our children and their children about the humans who answered our call when the galaxy turned away. Murphy looked around the bridge of the TSS Defiance. His crew was watching him with expressions of determination and pride. They knew what he was planning, and they were ready to follow him into hell itself. All right, people. This is it. Garcia, prepare a message buoy with our ship's logs. I want Earth to know what happened here. Collins, start loading every nuclear warhead we have into the forward torpedo tubes. Park, plot a course directly through the center of their formation. As the Allied fleet prepared for the final assault, Murphy opened a private channel to Admiral Carter back on Earth. Admiral, this is Captain Murphy. We found them. We found people worth saving. Tell Earth that we kept our promise. We answered the call. The final assault began with the fury of 100 suns. Every ship in the Allied fleet attacked the Devourer formation at once. Their weapons lighting up space in brilliant flashes of destruction. War Chief Gorthak led his Kraxan warriors in a direct charge against the largest bioships, their battle cries echoing across the communication channels. Captain Murphy watched the chaos unfold as he guided the TSS Defiance toward the heart of the enemy fleet. The nuclear warheads in his torpedo tubes represented enough firepower to level a small moon. If he could reach the hive ship and detonate them inside its core, the explosion might sever the biological network that controlled the entire Devourer fleet. Captain Lisa Park called from her station. The bioships are responding to our attack. They're pulling back to protect the hive ship. Good. That means our diversion is working. Collins, what's the status on the warheads? Bobby Collins checked. His readings all weapons, armed and ready, Captain. Once we're inside their hull, I can trigger a chain reaction that should take out everything within a 50-mile radius. Science Officer Zarathis' voice crackled over the communication system. Captain Murphy, my stealth field is masking your approach, but I can only maintain it for another 3 minutes. After that, they'll detect you. Understood. Open a channel to Commander Veltar. When the Zephyrian commander's voice came through, it was filled with grief and gratitude. Captain Murphy, there are no words in any language to express what your sacrifice means to my people. Commander, just promise me something. When this is over, don't let the galaxy forget what happened here. Don't let them forget that ordinary. People from dozens of worlds came together to do something extraordinary. I promise, Captain. The Zephyrian people will build a monument to this day. We will teach our children that when darkness threatened to consume us, the light came from the most unexpected place. Murphy cut the communication and focused on the massive hive ship growing larger on his view screen. The creature was beyond anything he had imagined. Its hull was covered in pulsing veins that carried energy to thousands of weapon pods. Strange organic structures jutted from its surface like the ribs of some impossible beast. 2 minutes to target, Park announced. Captain Garcia said quietly, "We're receiving a transmission from the hive ship itself. It's speaking to us." It's through. The voice that filled the bridge was unlike anything they had heard before. It was made up of thousands of different alien voices speaking in harmony, creating words that seemed to come from the depths of space itself. Small creatures of metal and flesh. Why do you resist? We offer unity. We offer perfection. Join with us, and your knowledge will live forever. Murphy keyed his communicator. Thanks, but we'll pass. We prefer our imperfection. You do not understand. We are the culmination of 10,000 civilizations. Every species we have absorbed has made us stronger, wiser, more complete. Your resistance is meaningless. Maybe, but it's our choice too. The hive ship's weapons began tracking toward the approaching human vessel. Murphy could see energy building in the organic cannons, preparing to fire. But before they could shoot, explosions bloomed across the creature's hull as the Allied fleet concentrated their fire on the weapon pods. Now, Captain, Zarathius shouted over the communication system. The stealth field is failing. Murphy pushed the engines to maximum power. The TSS Defiance shot forward like a bullet, racing toward a gap in the hive ship's defenses. Behind them, the Allied fleet fought desperately to keep the smaller bioships occupied. 30 seconds to impact, Park announced. Collins, prepare. To trigger the warheads on my mark. Ready, Captain? Murphy watched as the hive ship's hull rushed toward them. He could see individual cells and organs beneath the surface pulsing with alien life. This close, the creature looked less like a ship and more like a living nightmare. 10 seconds. The TSS Defiance punched through the outer hull of the hive ship, its reinforced nose cutting through organic armor like paper. They found themselves flying through a vast internal space filled with flowing liquids and hanging nerve clusters. Now, Collins? Bobby Collins triggered the nuclear warheads just as the TSS Defiance reached the center of the hive ship's brain chamber. Explosion was beyond description. Nuclear fire consumed everything within miles, severing the biological connections that held the Devourer fleet together. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the battlefield, the bioships suddenly stopped moving, or coordinated. Attacks became random, flailing. The smaller vessels began drifting helplessly as their connection to the hive mind was severed. War Chief Gorthok was the first to realize what had happened. The humans succeeded. The bioships are paralyzed. All ships, attack now while they cannot defend themselves. The Allied fleet fell upon the disabled Devourer vessels with renewed fury. Without their hive mind to coordinate defenses, the bioships were easy targets. One by one, they were destroyed by the combined firepower of species that had never worked together before. Commander Veltar watched from his command center as the last Devourer vessel was destroyed. Space around his dying world was filled with debris and the wreckage of the bioships that had come to consume everything he loved. All ships, he broadcast on the open channel. This is Commander Veltar. The threat to our world has been eliminated. Captain Murphy and the crew of the TSS Defiance have given their lives to save us all. The communication channels fell silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, voices began to speak. Kraxan warriors offered prayers for the dead, ethereal, Scientists spoke of the humans' logical sacrifice for the greater good. Independent traders promised to spread the story across the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, the tale of humanity's answer to the Zephyrian plea spread to every corner of known space. Young beings on 1,000 worlds heard the story and began asking their leaders why they had not acted. The great powers of the galaxy found themselves facing populations that no longer accepted fear and selfishness as acceptable policies. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter stood before the memorial wall in the Terran Defense Station. New names had been added to honor those lost at Keplor 442b: Captain Ryan Murphy, Bobby Collins, Lisa Park, Tony Garcia, Dr. Amy Watson, and hundreds of others who had answered the call. Jake Morrison, now promoted to commander, approached with a communication tablet. "Admiral, we're receiving requests for assistance from 17 different systems. Word has gotten out about what we did at Keplor 442b. Everyone wants humanity's help now." Admiral Carter smiled sadly. "And what did you tell them, Commander?" "We'll evaluate each request and respond accordingly." "But Admiral, we can't save everyone. We're still just one small species with limited resources." "No, Jake, we're not small anymore. Look at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The Kraxon High Command has established a new rapid response fleet. The Ethereal Collective is sharing their advanced technology with younger civilizations. Even the Council of Ancients has started intervening in crisis situations." Jake looked confused. "I don't understand, Admiral. Captain Murphy and his crew didn't just save the Zephyrians. They reminded the galaxy what it means to have a conscience. They showed everyone that being advanced means more than having powerful weapons or fast ships. It means being willing to help when help is needed." 6 months later, Commander Veltar stood before the newly completed memorial of answered calls on the restored surface of Keplor 442b. The crystal monument rose high into the sky, its faceted surfaces reflecting the light of the twin suns. Carved into its base were the names of every being who had died defending his world. At the center of the memorial was a simple message in dozens of languages. "When we called into the darkness, only humanity answered. They taught us that the greatest strength is not the power to destroy, but the courage to protect. May we never forget their gift." Delegations from across the galaxy had come for the dedication ceremony. The new Galactic Alliance for Mutual Defense had been formed, with Earth as one of its founding members. Never again would a plea for help go unanswered by the civilized galaxy. As Veltar placed a crystal flower at the base of the memorial, thought about the human captain who had sacrificed everything for people he had never met. Captain Murphy had been right about one thing. Sometimes doing what was right was reason enough, even if the cost was high. The galaxy had learned that lesson well, and they would never forget the species that taught it to them.